Hi there, welcome. For those people who already know about what I'm going to show you, please skip forward and go and check the moulds out that I'm casting. They're gone? Right, okay. This is for the people that, if you're going to dabble into casting, just a few of the items that you actually need to actually get yourself started. The first thing I'll start with, the most important, is casting powder. Just put that one there. The first one is a Herculite 2. Now this is a good all-round casting powder. It will do all of your moulds. But saying that, I do use two casting powders, and this is the Crystallite R. This is a porcelain finish plaster, which is extremely hard. I use this for the more delicate pieces like tiles, slates, little things like that. So they're both good quality casting powders. I will put a link in the description where you can actually get these from. You can actually get these off eBay, but other countries, I don't know which country you're in, you might have to find an equivalent to it. Right, that is the main thing. That's the most important. I'll stress that now, is to get a good quality casting plaster to cast in rubber silicone moulds. Plaster of Paris is no good. Don't even think about it. Or decoration filler or anything like that. You will not get good results. Right, moving along. What we have is a set of digital scales. The set of digital scales is for measuring weight-wise your casting powder. All casting powders will come to either a 2-to-1 ratio or a 3-to-1 ratio, which is 1 milliliter of water to 2 grams of casting powder. So you need a set of scales to measure that out accurately. The next thing, well, I'll move these things in because I think a lot of them are out of shot. A spoon, well, the spoon's for dishing up your powder. Nothing too technical about that. There isn't nothing too technical. You need a paintbrush, that is for mixing your plaster, and also for painting pigments or paints into your moulds. That's basic thing. A basic scraper, any shape or size. This is for cleaning off the tops of your moulds. We move along. Mixing containers. These can be yogurt pots, they can be anything you like as long as you can mix them. We also have a disposable syringe. This is a 10mm syringe. You'll find that most of the moulds you won't go over 12mm. Actually, it goes up to 12mm, this one does. They're very cheap to get hold of, and you will get an accurate mix by using something like this. Next to it, we have a piece of plastic. This is to actually put your moulds on. If I bring a mould down, the moulds are quite flexible and soft. This is just so when you cast, you can cast into your mould and you can actually move it away, put it somewhere safe to dry, because if you pick it up, as you can see, you're going to end up breaking your parts, damaging them, and things like that. Put that mould back in its place. Now, another thing that you need is a plastic container and some rinse aid. Now, the rinse aid is for soaking your moulds in before you cast in them. You will do a small amount into their water, put your mould into it and soak it. Then partially dry it off before you start casting. The rinse aid helps release, well, it breaks the water tension in the plaster and helps release the air bubbles from the face of the mould, so you do get decent parts. Now, colours. I've already done, there's 2 videos out. One on pigments, which is, I use the Vallejo pigments. And there's also one out on paints. I use the Vallejo paints. It's just that that's what I had to hand. There's 2 videos out. The choice is yours on what colours and how you do it. If you're going to do a lot of casting, I would recommend pigments. If it's going to be little bits and pieces and you don't want to buy pigments and you've got paints in your box, you can use paints quite easily and just as good as pigments. So that is your colouring. We move on now. I have a small vibrating table which I made myself. There is a video out how to actually make this particular vibrating table. Tells you all the parts that you need, how to do it, everything. If you don't want to build a vibrating table, you can actually get away with using a piece of plastic and getting a piece of foam rubber or sponge, placing it on, tapping it with your finger. That will do just as well. Failing that, you can actually use a compressor. Start your compressor up on your board and just gently lay it on top of the compressor. The vibrations will do exactly the same job as well. So there's 3 options there if you require for a vibrating table. Moving on, the final thing, and I will stress this because this has caused quite a few marital breakups, is, I'll just move the camera slightly, is a container to wash up in. You need a container to wash up in for the simple reason is when you mix the plaster with the water's only a medium to hold the plaster, and the plaster will sink and harden underwater. So if you wash your cups up, your moulds, that will go down the drain and it will block your sink up straight away. So if you get yourself a largest container that you can actually put stuff, wash stuff up and get it cleaned up. So that's it. So next up is how to cast the moulds. Right, welcome. I'm actually in the process of doing this particular mould. This is the brick section in Strechrr bond. As you can see by the colour of it, it's been used quite a bit, but I will run through how I actually do this one. So this is the as I said, the brick section in Strechrr bond. So I'll start off with straight into the rinse aid, and this particular mould is 14 mils and 14 mils and 28 grams of powder, a 2-to-1 ratio, and I'm going to be using the Herculite 2. So we get ourselves a container, 14 mils, there's 12, plus 2, and I will stress about getting your measurements right because it will help with the actual casting. So we need 28. And also, if you get your measurements right, the plaster, your casting powder lasts a lot longer. You're not wasting anything. So that's straight into there, and we'll get the mould out. As normal, a little tap. You don't want it too dry on to the vibrating table. I'm going to be using dark red ochre on this one, which has gone extremely dry. So we'll have a little bit of water in there, not much. Oh, looks like we're going to need to mix them up. I think we've got enough one for this. Touch more. I'm just using my pigments. just diluted down with a little bit of water. Does the job fantastically, and I'll try and do this without blocking you. I like using the pigments. You don't get such a build-up on the moulds. You can just wipe them off and literally put them straight into your rinse aid and start again. Right, a good brushful into the your mix, just to give it a bit of base colour. Basically, it's just that if you have to damage your brick sections, at least you've got a darker colour there, well, darkish colour, to actually start your weathering. Right, on this one, because we've got the pigment painted into the mould, you don't pour directly into it, you pour from the side and let the mould fill itself up. As simple as that. If you're going to pour anywhere else, just try and use the side of the mould just to stem the flow down so it doesn't push the pigment out, because what happens is that you end up with like white graffiti stripes on it. So that's enough. Excuse me while I do my washing up as normal. I'm very domesticated here. And excuse the big arm across the camera. Right, put things away. Run your finger around the outside. I just do this because it allows the excess water just to roll off. To me, I can't see no air bubbles coming up, so that's okay. So we'll switch that off. I shall be back in roughly about 4 to 5 minutes. I'm just going to let that surface harden off a little bit so we can scrape it back and then put it up on the rack ready for drying. Okay, it's been sort of 5-10 minutes and I've changed the camera angle. Hopefully I can show you a bit better without being too uncomfortable for myself. My flat scraper again, and all I'm going to do is just go across the top very gently, take off any excess, like so. And I hope I didn't get my big hand in too much. That's okay now. I shall put that on the rack, leave it to dry, and then we'll come back and turn it out and see what we've got. Okay, the brick section is dry. I'll just get a box to put it in. We'll get the scraper just to tease it off there. I will start from this end. There we go, we've got a broken one already. That's probably the way I pulled it off the mould. I don't even bother keeping these anymore because they are just not worth the hassle. Yeah, and I broke that one as well. Look at that too. But there you go. That's the way it goes. And there's your brick segment. I shall put that into my box. That will be left to dry. Now this, you can go, I clean off. And then I put it straight back to make sure all the excess is off, which don't take many minutes. Now I'll put that straight back into my rinse aid with all that stuff that's in the mould, because the simple reason is, if I put that into there now and give it a few seconds, you'll find that that will all knock out on your next cast. And what doesn't knock out will just reactivates on the surface. So I'll take that out, it's not that long. And as you can see by the state of my towel, a good bang, it knocks out the remaining of the pigment. Okay, it's less stained, but that's nothing because the pigment will wash off. You take that inside, give it a rinse underneath the tap, all that pigment comes off, so it stays nice and clean. So you can carry straight on and refill it and get on with the next one. I thought I'd show you that. So that's it for the brick segment. Thank you very much for joining me, and there's more on the way.